just thinking about. Which one are you, Charlotte?
This one, the hand on the face, just being like,
Yeah.
really just pondering life over there. I'm Charlotte Materna. I am one of the hosts of the Flashback, and I am a senior at Michigan State University. I'm majoring in human biology and minoring in bioethics, and I also do some office shifts here at the Impact on Fridays. Album number 5 for me is a Fleet Foxes album, the self-titled Fleet Foxes album. I think it was released in the early 2000s, and that album is super near and dear to my heart. I think it's a great one to listen to walking to class or when you're trying to study or even fall asleep. I know when I can't sleep, I always put that album on, and it's just really soothing. I love the Fleet Foxes. They're from Seattle, so it has like a really cool West Coast, like almost like a rainy winter day vibe to this. That's what their music sounds like to me. As soon as I feel a little chill in the air, I'm like, it's time to listen to some Fleet Foxes. So that's always my go-to. I got to see them live at the Masonic Temple in Detroit last summer, and it was one of the best shows I've ever seen. It was mostly an acoustic show. There was a lot of really cool like background singers and different types of instruments, some string instruments, some horns, and it just filled that hall like such a full sound, and it was just amazing, like a euphoric experience for me. So a lot of the songs off of the self-titled Fleet Foxes album was played, and that just like further solidified my love for that band. Yeah. I listen to them year-round, but different albums. So I'm struggling to come up with the name of the album, but it's the album that Mykonos is on. And that album I listen to in the summer and more in the spring, too. So they describe nature a lot in their music, and the self-titled album definitely describes more so the wintertime. And I think that other album, I'm forgetting the name of it, but I also love that one as more spring and summer. I think since we're filming this in the winter here in Michigan, that one's just kind of lining up with me more right now. Album number 4 is Stop Making Sense by the Talking Heads. That one it hits. I think that's always been one of my favorite albums since I was a little bit younger too. I remember like my parents listening to it on vinyl, and then in 2020 when the pandemic hit, there was Stop Making Sense like live performance of the entirety of the album, and that was just on repeat. And I was at home the entire time. Obviously, we all were during the pandemic, and I remember starting my first semester of college, and like I'd be like doing an online Zoom class, and then I'd come downstairs and Stop Making Sense is on TV again for like the 90th time, and I never got sick of it. For as much as it was repeated in my house during that time period, like I was just like, oh, this is kind of happy. Like my whole family's like still listening to this music. We had that sense of togetherness, and I think a lot of the music off of that album is upbeat. So it kind of brought some joy into the house when we were all at home, trying to progress, trying to move forward, me starting college, things like that. So I listened to, for the first time, the Paramore Burning Down the House cover, and I screamed. I was on FaceTime with a friend, and we were studying for clinical immunology, and I start talking to him. I'm like, oh, I think Paramore is coming up with, a cover song for Burning Down the House, and my friend was like, there's no way, and then I go onto Apple Music, and I check it, and I'm like, it's out! Oh my God! So I'm like, we have to share it! We're both Apple Music users, so I'm sorry. I know it's a controversial take, but I've always used Apple Music, so I'm like, I'm not gonna change it now, but whatever. I like screen shared it somehow, so we both were listening to it late last night, and it was awesome. She's just amazing.
She's amazing.
We love Haley Williams.
Anyway, what's your album number 3 then?
It's After Laughter by Paramore. I am choosing that one as my favorite album. More so, not because those are my absolute favorite songs, but I think that album as a whole is really symbolic to like the period of time, like when it came out. And I remember the day that it dropped, and I was sitting in like high school language arts. I think I was a sophomore or a freshman in high school. Yeah, No, a sophomore. And I was sitting there and, I'm in the back of the class. I love language arts, but that was always a subject that I kind of like zoned out in a little bit. So I was sitting in the back of the class and I got like an Apple Music notification. They're like, After Laughter just dropped. And I literally left class and went to the bathroom and put my AirPods in and like listened to half of it in the bathroom and skipped class to listen to it. And I was like, oh my gosh, it kind of just like changed my life. I felt like it was really speaking to me. Yeah, I don't know. It spoke to me on a real level, and it's been repeated numerous times throughout my life. I think the lyrics just really hit home, and I thought they hit home when it came out, and then, as we get older, we build relationships and breakups happen, and then you revisit some Paramore albums, and you're like, oh, that's what she meant by that. That's what it feels like to like understand the lyrics previous and then to listen to them again and feel them like deep in your heart is just an unreal experience. And oh my gosh, like I could start crying when I talk about Paramore. Like they're one of those bands that it was one of the first bands that I discovered solely on my own. Like I don't know, I think like 13 or 14, and I used to be a part of School of Rock, and I played guitar and bass and sang, and we did a Paramore song. We did Misery Business, and it was the first time I ever heard it, was like listening like as a band, like as like a little 13-year-old in these group sessions with School of Rock, and they put on Misery Business, and I'm like, what is this? I'm like, wait a minute, what is this? And I just remember like being so excited and then just listening to everything that they had out from then. And then since that moment, I've just been like a Paramore stan for real. I saw them in 2018 at Pine Knob for the After Laughter tour, and I went with my best friend and my mom, and we just had the best time. It was like such a fun tour. She covered Passion Fruit by Drake. And I still listen to it. It's not released on anything, that cover, but I listen to it on YouTube sometimes because I just love it. And then I saw them this past summer for This Is Why, the newest album. And she played so much of After Laughter, and I was just in tears. I was like, oh my God. And she was talking, she's like, I remember when I was here in 2018. And she's like, I feel so much like a different person now. And she gave like this whole speech, and I'm just like, so do I, Haley. I'm like, you can't be saying these things. I don't know. I just think them as a whole, they're just like such great people, and they care about their fans too, so it makes it easier to like them too. So I think that This Is Why took a big turn, and they definitely did a lot of things different. Especially lyrically. It kind of took more of a political and like societal approach to like speaking the truth versus, heartbreak and friendships and things like that. So I'm kind of curious to see if she will turn more to her roots with like heart-wrenching emotional songs, or like still speak to this this platform that she has for like political and environmental change and things like that. So I don't really know what direction they'll take. I do know that like when Haley first got signed, they're like, we want you to be a pop artist. We really want you to like avoid punk. They were kind of like more adamant on that. I wonder if she will take more of a punk approach now that she's not tied down to a label. All right, album number 2. All right, I don't know if I want to put this one. I have such a hard time putting albums in order. Diary of a Madman by Ozzy Osbourne. Anyone watching this video is probably like, what is she thinking? My music taste is everywhere. Like, everywhere. Ozzy Osbourne, what a guy.
What a guy.
What a guy he is. Diary of a Madman is my motivational music. For example, I had a genetics exam this week. I'm walking like a good 25 minutes to class. That's just like playing. It's like flying high again. And I'm just like, I got this. And like Believer, no one's going to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself. Like it just has such good messages. Like Ozzy's so cute in that sense, but then it just has these awesome guitar solos, and it's so hair metal. It's so 80s. It's so good. Another fun fact about me, every morning at 8 a.m. I wake up to Crazy Train as my alarm sound.
funny.
Not kidding. Like, it scares the crap out of my roommate. She's like, Charlotte, you gotta change it. You gotta change it. Every time I hear Ozzy go, all aboard, at 8 in the morning, like, it needs to stop. And I'm like, I can't. Like, he wakes me up. It works, though, because I'm like, holy crap. Like, I gotta get up. Crazy Train's on. So, yeah, all aboard onto a new day. You know, it's symbolic in a sense. Yeah, I don't know. I really, really love Ozzy and Black Sabbath. I just think they're so great. And they got me into metal. That was like, Ozzy was like my gateway drug into metal. And I think that it happened to a lot of people, right? Like, he's like the Prince of Darkness. He kind of started metal in Britain and kind of like followed that whole new trend of like new metal before, you know, we had like super heavy stuff too. So I don't know. I don't know. Ozzy's what's got me into metal, and I love like Iron Maiden. Specifically, hair metal is mostly what I listen to. I think it's like almost kind of like comical in how theatric it is, and I really like that about it. But yeah, that's up there for me. All right, it's a live album by the Grateful Dead. I'm a huge Deadhead. That's like definitely part of my identity. I love the Grateful Dead, and it's Europe 72. That live album, it has like the little like clown looking guy that has like the ice cream cone on his head is how I describe the album cover. And it's good. It's a 2-hour album about, I would say, I don't want to get that wrong, but I think it's up there in time, and every song I think really embodies the Grateful Dead's like best version of that song on that album. They were in their prime in 72. Jerry Garcia was doing really well at the time. They were super tight, practicing a lot. It was before, like, they all got, like, super into drugs, so they were, like, more coherent. So, I don't know. I really admire that album. The Grateful Dead is a family band for me. I grew up on it. My parents are Deadheads. My grandparents are Deadheads. Like, it was just kind of like, it's like a legacy band for me. And they all got to see shows. And now I can, like, go back and listen to those shows. There's, like, an app online called Addicts, and it's, like, all free shows. And it goes back down to, like, the late 60s of Grateful Dead shows. And I can, like, go scroll through. I'm like, oh, my gosh, my grandparents were at the show. I can listen to it. And it's, like, the soundboard recording. And I just think that's so cool to have that connection. And, like, the same thing for my parents. Like, oh, my gosh, when my parents were first dating, like, they went to this Grateful Dead show together. I can listen to that. And then also, like, the shows I've seen with Dead and Company and John Mayer, I can go back and listen on. So I think that it really is just, I don't know, it's wholesome for me. My Deadhead loving music, it's just good. The Grateful Dead was one of, like, the fathers of jam bands, or the father of jam bands. Like, they blew up in the 60s, and it was just something that no one's ever really heard before. They took like folk music and psychedelic rock and a little bit more of just like classic rock and just made this like hybrid new genre that hasn't really been able to be replicated. And they would just play these long songs, and like the whole crowd would be able to get in sync. A lot of like their rhythm just makes everyone feel like a whole. And it had a lot to do with like the counterculture movement, and I think that music really just fit into like kind of a soundtrack for the time. And it created this big following where people were following them around the country to see every show, because each show is so different. Their discography, if you look at it on a streaming service, doesn't seem that big, but it's really just so massive. So many different songs that haven't even really been recorded, different versions of the songs, different variations where they're like, oh, we're going to play Uncle John's Band and like transfer into China Cat Sunflower, which are two of like one of their more popular songs. And like those transitions that they do, they're different every show. So you can see like 5 to 10 to 12 Dead shows and hear the same songs technically, but it won't ever sound the same each time. So people were just like, I have to be at this show. I have to hear it played this way. And yeah.